Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Significant operations, noteworthy operations, good or bad, that you think are worth discussing?
Yeah, I do. So there's one that comes to mind, and for me, like, this was the craziest op I was ever on. And when I interviewed this same guy who was in this flight with me, this senior warrant, I interviewed him and I asked him, so he had, I think, 4,000 flight hours. He did 4 deployments. And I said, what was the worst day you ever had? And it was this day. So it was a daytime flight. We infilled. So it was in Wardak province, so near Ghazni. I don't know if you guys ever spent time there. It was in this valley called the Jalrez Valley. And my aviation battalion commander was West Point classmates with the infantry ground space commander, right? So the battalion commander on the ground. And so they were paired up pretty tightly, and he wanted to support him all the time. So this guy on the ground wanted to go into this area and pick a fight. And every time we went into this area, we picked somebody got shot in this place. Anytime we ever flew in there, someone was getting shot. So they infilled a company in on the ground and kept them there for a week. And then the idea was they'd pick a fight, find out where the bad guys were, and then come back out. So so this was 2008, I think in 9 or 10, they ended up putting a fob in this valley. But at that time, there was nothing. It was the end of the world as far as we were concerned. So we infilled this infantry company 1 week, completely quiet infill, nothing going on. We drop them off. We like Chinooks, they ground infill. They drove in half the unit, half of them we infilled by air. Nothing happened for a week. And then we went to exfil them. And we just knew this was going to be bad. And I went with this guy to our battalion commander, and I was like, hey, if there's a way we can change up how we're doing this, we think we need to. We think somebody's going to get killed here. What we know about this area is bad. We shouldn't be going in here, but we went in anyway. And so I stacked the teams for this one mission with who I thought was the best in our unit. So we had multi-ships, but we had 2 Apaches going in with 2 Chinooks, and then we would rotate because it was going to take hours. It was probably an hour and a half flight just to get there from our base and get them back home. And then we'd have to refuel. It was going to take all day. So we stacked the teams, we fly in. And as we're flying in, we started getting, so it's 2 Chinooks and then 2 Apaches behind them. And we started getting airburst RPGs coming up, broad daylight. And it's probably like 3,000 or 4,000 foot mountains in a pretty narrow valley with a single road in and out. There was no, and maybe 300 meters of terrain on either side of the road, right? So it's single road, high, steep valley, steep mountains. And we're flying in and we're already taking air bursts. The Chinooks are able to exfil, folks. So we exfil with them, and then we come back to cover the ground convoy. And there's been no contact on the ground, just us getting shot at as we fly in. And then as the ground convoy is exfilling, we're overhead. And again, it was a clear blue day. And we're talking with the ground convoy. Everything's good. They come up to this area that has an overpass, and they get ambushed. Mm-hmm. And so it's starting out here. We're scanning the hell out of this area. And one of the dudes who's on the other front seater. So I'm in the front seat, and our other front seater is a guy who has gone on to be a Little Bird gun pilot, flight lead in 160th. So an incredibly gifted pilot. He used to find people when no one else could see them, and he couldn't find anybody. And so already we're on the back foot. It's a no shit ambush. They initiated it by hitting a dude in one of the Humvees, directly with an RPG. So dude took it in the chest in an RPG. God. So it's immediate chaos. We got to call in a medevac, got to get these guys out of the kill zone. And we could not see any enemy guys on the ground. No one. We just could not see them. And so we're flying around overhead for a couple minutes, and it's insane on the radios. I don't know if you guys were ever in this scenario, but there were a few times where I heard guys on the ground like screaming into the radios because it's no shit, life or death at this moment. You know, it's not, we're observing this, like we're taking fire, we got to get out of the kill zone, put some lead down here. So we're incredibly frustrated in the air. We just can't see anyone, and we don't want to pull the trigger and hit one of our own guys. It's truly danger close. So at one point, the same guy JT says to us, we're talking air to air, and he says, "Hey guys, we can't get a shot off. Let's fly down low and see if they'll shoot at us instead of these guys and get them out of the kill zone." So he's like, "I want to make sure you guys are okay doing it because we might get killed." And so we said, "Yep, let's go ahead and do it." So we come in and we did a couple passes low, and we were coming in low on one of them, and we could feel our aircraft like bump up a couple feet, which is rare. And it was small arms fire hitting us. And then we saw an RPG fly out our left window, like, I don't know if it was 10 meters, but me and my backseater were joking afterwards. It looked like an Acme rocket. It was so slow, like it was Wile E. Coyote or something, like just cruising by us. And if it had airburst, I don't know what would have happened, but this guy had a beat on us and just missed us. So like, for me, that was probably the closest I came to dying. And it was, you know, to me, it was nerve wracking. So we got back up, we're flying. And in the Apache, when you're sitting on the controls in the front seat, it's designed to be like a long range shot. So you're shooting missiles and rockets usually from the front seat, and you can shoot the gun, but usually you have like more freedom to maneuver and space to shoot. But we were real tight on this one because of the terrain. So the guy in the back seat ended up taking the gun, and in the Apache, like wherever you're looking with the monocle, you can pull the trigger and shoot 30 mil. So he started putting rounds down, just looking at targets and pulling the trigger, which was rare. Like daytime, like shots from the back seat, kind of in that scenario, are rare from what we had seen. So we were just trying to put some rounds down, and we ended up getting some hits and getting these guys out of the kill zone. But this ended up being a 10-hour day for us. Like we needed a general order approval, a general officer's approval to continue flying, because we had to go back in so many times to get these guys out. Medevac came in, they got shot up on the way out. And then just making sure like everybody was safe back at their base before we landed. So at the end of the day, we landed back in coast in Salerno, and I hopped out of the aircraft. We turn it off. Me and the co-pilot would jump out. And as soon as the pressure leaves the aircraft, like there's not all this stuff circulating, like the fluid can settle, and it just started pouring out of bullet holes that we had all over the airframe. And then the crew chiefs, they're like, "God damn it, sir. Like I gotta, you know, they're glad you came back. Like it's all good natured fun, but they're like, God, you got my aircraft shot up. What the hell?" But they would go and they pulled out rounds, and they pulled out one from our fuel cell. And this was pretty damn cool. So like I still have this AK round that we got hit with in our fuel cell, in our fuel bladder. So the bladder was designed so that it would self-seal as a round came in, so that you didn't get any air into the fuel system to combust. And I never believed it would work, and that shit worked when we needed it.
That's amazing.
So it was awesome. And we got a bunch of pictures of like where the rounds came in, and we got to keep some of them. But to me, like that was a huge deal. Personally, that was the worst I'd ever been in.
Why did you guys need a general officer's approval?